Hi everyone, my name is JD and this is my channel Frost and Forest. So today I am going to be doing the end of the year tag. It's a VR to Chanel days. I thought it would be a nice way to kind of wrap up the end of the year and show you some of the decks that are kind of, just show some cool decks. But before I get started on that tag, I just wanted to take a moment and thank you all for being here and for subscribing to my channel and for just kind of in general making me feel welcome in the community. My channel just started in 2025, been growing slowly, but I just, none of that would be possible without you all. This will likely be my last video of 2025, but then I'll start again strong in 2026. So just starting out, the first prompt is a deck you loved using the most this year. And when I saw that prompt, again, if you've watched my channel before, you maybe realize I have issues with this. I have to pick my most favorite thing. It kind of stops me from doing things. It feels overwhelming to me to pick my very favorite thing of something because I like so many things, and it just, it depends on my mood and it depends on what I'm trying to do and all these things. And so I had a little bit of trouble with the first prompt. And so, but I did want to make this video. So I decided, in order to kind of get past that overwhelm, I would just pick a deck that I really enjoyed using this year. And it might not be the deck that I loved the most this year, but it was a deck that really, really surprised me. And really, I had really, really great readings with it. And so that's the one that I'm going to talk about. And that is the Bloodlands Oracle. So this is a mass market Oracle deck, and it is in black and white. And I kind of held off getting this one because I wasn't sure if I wanted it or not, because, it was black and white. It also, I think, only has 42 cards. Yeah, 42 cards. And so that can sometimes be a reason why I won't get an Oracle deck, is if it doesn't seem like it has enough cards. But then I decided to get it, and every time that I've used it, the readings have been really, really great, and I really identified with them. And I think there's a couple of different reasons for that. I think one, the guidebook for this deck is really great. So it's definitely one that I can use. I also think that, I have a lot of connections to nature. I work with nature. I work with trees. And so, a lot of these cards just kind of make sense to me. And so, even though I do like to use the guidebook for this deck, whenever I use this deck, I already, when I see the picture on the card, it just starts, an idea or a meaning or a direction just kind of starts forming in my brain, because I get it. I think it feels like I get it. And so this has been just one that, I don't know if it's my favorite deck that I've used this year, but it is one that I've really, really enjoyed using, and it kind of surprised me at how much I enjoyed using it, and how deep the cards were, and just how much I identified with this deck. So that is really cool. It is also has edging. It has this red edging. It came that way. But yeah, it's a black and white deck. The one the one thing that I have a little bit of trouble with this deck is, I'm not used to being in nature without any animals or insects or anything like that. And so the lack of animals in this deck does kind of weird me out a little bit, but I think that it does kind of let me sort of hone in on sort of these different parts of nature and different parts of a tree, like life parts of a tree, and just environmental what's the word I'm looking for? Just environmental features. I don't know. That's not exactly the word, but hopefully that makes sense. Like, yeah, basically, even though there's no animals, and that's a little strange to me, I just try to focus in on what is the card, like what the card is. And so that works pretty well. Yeah, this is one that I've really enjoyed using this year. So I wanted to share it in this video. So then the next prompt is your most recent addition. And so for me, my most recent addition is the Coastal Crow and Raven tarot deck. This is by MJ Coulinane. This is one that I pre-ordered because I love these sort of water scenes and I love the crows, and I thought the art was so beautiful, or is so beautiful. I just think it's great. And so yeah, I was really excited to get this one because I could see it going with a lot of my other decks, and just, you know, I love the connection to water. I love the lighthouses in this deck. Just all of that kind of vibe and feeling from it. I will say, you know, the art is absolutely beautiful. I mean, just look at these scenes. It is so great. I love the like sunsets in this deck, and just, yeah, I really like the art in this deck. And then, you know, those are the backs. I will say, when I opened this deck, I was a little bit surprised about a couple of things. You know, for one, I didn't really realize it was going to come in this burlappy type bag that I don't want to set on fire right now. I didn't realize it was going to come in this burlap bag. I also am not sure about the cardstock of this deck. It is one of those cardstocks that like feels like a cardboard box. And it is one of those cardstocks that I'm worried that if I shuffle it too hard, it's going to bend in a way that it's going to be hard to come back from. And it also is really thick. Like, the cardstock is really thick. And so it's kind of a hard deck for me to shuffle. You know, I'm definitely not going to be able to riffle shuffle it. I can hand over hand shuffle it, but riffle shuffling I think is kind of out. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit disappointed when I got it because, you know, the cardstock is not the best in the world, and there isn't a box, and the bag that came with it I think is trying to be big enough to have the cards and the book in it, which I get, but having a giant bag with a thing in it makes it a little bit hard for me to store as well. I think I would prefer a box, but also that is something that can be pretty easily remedied by, I can just get a new bag or whatever to put it in that's a little bit smaller and fits the deck size a little bit better. But yeah, I don't know. It was a mixed bag, but this art is beautiful. And I mean, yeah, it's so tropical. It's got that cheeky crow energy, and you know, it's pretty. So yeah, I don't have a ton to say about it because it is, I think I literally got this deck yesterday, so I haven't had a chance to work with it a ton. But yeah, there it is. So that is my most recent addition. But yeah, just so you can see, like, this is how big it is together. I can like barely hold that in my hands because I have small hands, and so like, just, it is very thick cardstock and makes it a very chunky deck. The next prompt is a deck that isn't your usual style, but you're vibing with it. And for this one, I picked, I think it's called the Sling Tarot. This deck is in kind of like a coffin-like shape, which is kind of interesting. But this is one that is definitely not my usual aesthetic, but I have been really, really liking it. And the reason that I say it's not my usual aesthetic is I am not usually into like anime like art styles. That's just not something that, you know, I connect with as well. And, you know, that's nothing to say anything negative about that art style at all. You know, I think there's a lot of beautiful decks like that out there, but it's just not usually something I connect with. But for whatever reason, this very oddly shaped deck is one that I have really, really been enjoying using, and I really, really like it. And I'm not entirely sure why, but I do. And I like it to the point that I put up with shuffling it, because I will tell you, this shape of card is very difficult for me to shuffle. So even though it is difficult to shuffle, I still have been using this deck a lot. So, you know, I think it's partially that it has a lot of purple in it. I tend to like purple. I think it's partially that it kind of has this like creepy, a little bit of a creepy undertones to it, which I also tend to like. And I think it's also, you know, a little bit witchy feeling as well, which is another thing that I tend to like. And so even though this deck is kind of not my usual aesthetic, I am actually really enjoying it, and I like having it. And I have found some fun pairs for it as well this year, which is kind of cool. So yes, this is a deck that is not my usual style, but I am vibing with. Okay, so then the next prompt is your favorite deck pairing. And for me, it's going to be the Tree Whispers Oracle. And then this is called the, I'm sorry if I pronounce this incorrectly, the Emerlize Tarot. But this has been one of my, I think, most used pairs this year. I think they go beautifully together. I think they both have that kind of spooky, foresty vibe to it, which I think is why I love it so much. And they both have this sort of same, like, stylized photography as well. So this is one that I have just been using a lot this year. And it is really kind of a very grounding pattern. Not grounding pattern. It's really a very grounding pairing, because it is just so focused on forest vibes. But I also, you know, I like the little bit of spookiness with it. Like look at these cards together. Lost in the Mist with the 7 of Swords and then the 10 of Swords. You know, just being so stuck in the direction that you're heading that you're not sure what direction to go and you're worried about a bad end. I don't know. They just really go nicely together. And so I think that this is my most favorite pair for this year, because I think they work so beautifully together. And it is kind of interesting because this Tree Whispers Oracle is one that, even though there is no guidebook, which is usually a pretty big deal breaker for me with Oracle decks, I love using it because it's just great. And like, just look at how beautiful that is together. It's just, yeah. It is such a great pairing. So this is, this is my favorite pair for 2025. Or the next prompt is divination accessories, dice, journals, altar items, deck mod, bags, kind of all that good stuff. And so I had a couple things that I wanted to show. The first one might feel a little bit silly, but it actually has changed some stuff for me. This is a card holder, and it is just, you know, a very simple card holder. You know, it just holds the card up like that. But I got it this year, and I have actually started using the practice of like having a card and then putting it in the stand and then actually kind of keeping it out. And because it's sort of in my, you know, in the space where I'm always pulling cards, for the first time now that I have this stand, I'm actually like pulling a card out and then coming back to it and having it sit out for a while and just kind of working with that card. And so it, you know, I never really did that in the past. I never really left cards out like that. But for whatever reason, now that I have this little stand, that has been something that I've started doing, which I have been enjoying. And then the other thing I wanted to show is I got purple dice this year. I love the color purple, and I have been loving using these dice. It is one of the cool things that I really like about it is that if you shake it like you would, then there's like glittery stuff inside the dice, like purple glitter misty stuff. And so yeah, I really like these dice. And so this is another, you know, sort of divination accessory that I have been using a lot this year. So then the next prompt is a great card back. And this one was also one that when I first started thinking about doing this tag, it was a little bit of a stumper. I just, you know, backs are not something, I mean, I love backs and I love having beautiful backs, but I was having trouble thinking of a deck that I really kind of truly loved the backs and thought it was really great. And so, you know, I wasn't sure for a while, but then earlier this week, this My Friend Fire came in to my collection, and then it was very clear what was a back that I really like, because I think that these backs are beautiful. You can see that they have a little bit of that, I think it's foil, so they just kind of, they glow, or they're shiny, which I think is great. But yeah, so I got this in and I was like, oh, okay, I know what is a deck that I love the back of, and it is this deck. I already really love this deck. I got the pockets, the like poker size linen version because I can shuffle it better. But this deck, I just love this deck, and this deck is quickly becoming a favorite, and I can imagine that this will be one of my favorite Oracle decks in the future, just because it has been so great. And so I'm so excited to have it, and I am excited to use it a lot more as well. So this is the deck, My Friend Fire, for a great back of the card. So then the next prompt is a deck with a theme that you really like. So for me, I chose the Trash Panda. I just got this deck this year, and I really like it. I like the raccoon theme in it. I think the raccoons are very cute, and I think it's a very cheeky deck, and it is a very fun deck. And so this was the first thing I thought of when I heard that prompt, because I love this raccoon deck. And so it's very fun. It also feels like kind of a timely deck, because I was reading this article that suggests that new research that some scientists believe that raccoons might be pets in the future, just because of the fact that they are becoming more and more used to being around humans because of the trash. And, you know, one of the theories about how dogs evolved was that they got comfortable being around humans because of eating their trash. And so they're seeing some connections between that history and raccoons. And so super interesting. Who knows? You know, who knows if that's gonna happen or not. But if it's the kind of thing you're curious about, definitely go check it out, because there's some neat articles about it. But this is just a great deck. It is very RWS based, but it's also just fun and cheeky, and my favorite themed deck this year. The next prompt is my most beautiful deck of the year. And this is another one that I kind of balked at a little bit, because so many of my decks are beautiful and so many of them I love, but I was able to kind of really actually find the deck that I think was probably my most beautiful deck of the year, and that has to be the Chicken Tarot. This one probably could have worked for the last prompt as well. I do think the chicken theme is kind of fun, but I really just think this deck is beautiful. You know, I'm not necessarily what you would call a chicken person, but I love this art. I love the colors. I love the, you know, just sort of the feelings around the cards and the painting art style. And I really think that this deck, oh, there's another raccoon. I really think this deck merits, you know, the most beautiful deck, because all of these cards are individual paintings that this creator created for this deck. And so, you know, it's really beautiful. But like, just look at these cards. I like that, you know, some of them sort of feel a little bit impressionist-y. That's kind of an art style that I really like. But yeah, I think this one is definitely my most beautiful deck of the year. And, you know, the other part of it is I also really, you know, I'm not always a border person, but I really think the borders in this deck are beautiful as well. And they just kind of bring the deck together in a really great way. So yeah, this very clearly is my most beautiful deck of the year. Okay, so then the next prompt is a deck you wish existed or a unicorn deck you want. So I'm going to go with a unicorn deck that I want. And I'll show some cards while I'm doing that. But the unicorn deck that I would like is, I would like the other Tree Whispers Oracles decks. That's kind of a unicorn deck for me. You know, this is the Dream Travelers edition, and I got this, I'm pretty sure this year, and I really, really loved it. I love it a lot. You know, I already showed it to you a little bit because it is part of my favorite pair from this year, but I've been really enjoying this deck. And I was going to, in her last like fall pre-order, I was going to try to get the other two, but then of course that ended up not happening, unfortunately. And so, you know, I don't know if I'll ever get the other two editions of this deck or not. We will see. But you know, I'd really like to have them, because I've really been enjoying using this deck. And so yeah, I'd like to have them. But the other thing I'll say is, you know, right now you have to pay pretty big prices for them if you can actually find someone who's selling them. And I, you know, have a limit. There is a limit that I will not spend more than that on a deck of cards, no matter how much I love it. And so, you know, I can't see myself getting the other two versions of this deck unless she decides to do another pre-order, just because I probably can't, or I'm unwilling. I probably can't or am unwilling to pay the prices for the other two decks of this one. But yeah, it's beautiful. I love the tree energy. I love just, you know, how you can get lost in some of these trees and, you know, see different things. Like every time I pull a card, I feel like I see something different in this deck, which I think is part of what makes it so cool. So yeah, I would love to get the other Tree Whisperer oracles someday. We'll see if it happens. You know, if it doesn't happen, I can just be grateful that I was able to get this one and just keep using and loving this one as well. Okay, so then the next prompt is, which card sums up this year as a whole, or a card whose energy you want to bring in? And I would say that this year has really felt like a Chariot year for me. I'm going to be completely honest. I have no idea where the time went, and I've only sort of felt like I have been, you know, steering it in a certain direction. Like this year has just gone by so quickly, and so this is so I do think that the Chariot energy is really represents this year, because I've also felt like this year has been a lot of going. So yeah, I don't know. And then right now I am showing the Darkness of Light Tarot. This is one that first of all, I really like the Chariot card in this deck, so I decided to show it. And also, this is one that's been sitting out on my desk right now. Basically, it seems like every sort of Yule time, so this like darker time of the year, I have one darker deck like this that just really is the one that I'm using a lot. It just stays out on my table the whole season. And this year that deck is the Darkness of Light. It just, one day I felt like pulling it out, and it has never really gone back in yet, or, you know, been put away yet. So yeah, this is the Darkness of Light. I love the dogs in this deck. That's part of the reason why I wanted to get it, is just because of the dog in a couple of the cards. I like that card. Yeah, so this deck and I are hanging out a lot right now, especially in the evenings and at night when it gets dark a lot earlier. But yeah, I think it's definitely been a Chariot year, and I am hoping that 2026 will be able to go a little bit slower, and I will be able to enjoy a few things a little bit more and just have a little bit more relaxation time instead of just kind of going all the time. So yeah, that is that for that prompt. For the next prompt is your tarot practice reflections. You know, I think that this year, kind of like what I was just talking about, that it's been really busy and there have been a lot of things going on and a lot of things I'm focusing on, that some of my tarot practice got a little bit waylaid this year, I would say. I just didn't always have the spoons to do everything that I had hoped I would be able to do. I found myself kind of just letting some of those more structured practices go, and instead just letting myself kind of pull cards as needed, or when I was interested, or just when I wanted to play with cards or look at cards. That was more this year. I always do a week ahead practice, and that goes pretty well. And then I also like to pull cards around the full moon, and that was pretty consistent. But for example, I tried to do Don Michelle's practice this year, and that some months went really well, and some months I just didn't have the capacity. So, you know, we'll see about that. I also, you know, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I started my channel this year. And so I think that that has also meant that I've had to kind of refine a balance between when I am pulling cards for me versus when I'm, you know, playing with cards for a video like this. And so I think I need to figure out how to kind of rebalance that a little bit more, because, you know, pulling cards for myself is important to me. And so, you know, as much as I love making videos and sharing them with you all, which I want to continue to do, I just also want to make sure I'm doing this stuff for me as well, if that makes sense. So we'll see how that pans out in 2026. I'm not quite sure yet, but we will see. So then the last prompt is pull a card for the new year or a deck you want to use next year. I'm just going to pull the Coastal Crow Tarot back out again because I would like to pull a card from it. That just feels right. You know, I didn't say all of the, you know, my feedback on this deck was not all positive. And so I do want to give it another chance because I do love the art. And so, you know, in the spirit of giving this deck a chance, even though it is, the cardstock makes it hard for me to use. Yeah, even though that's going on, I still would like to give it a chance. So I am going to pull a card for the new year. I keep bumping this. And we will see. So, pull a card for the new year. Let's see. What do we got? Four of Swords. Interesting. Okay. I mean, this kind of goes along with how I've been feeling a little bit about, you know, this year has been going, and I would like to have more time to rest in 2026. So let's see what the Four of Swords in the guidebook has to say. So it says, what the ocean brings in: rest, recovery, mental reset. And then what the tide pulls out is escapism and burnout. And then it says, in Washington State, if there's driftwood, there will be makeshift driftwood shelters on the beach. Some are barely large enough for one person to sit inside. Others are impressive engineering feats, almost like the coastline's own cathedrals to solitude. What always strikes me is that I never see anyone building them. I never see anyone in them. They appear as if the shoreline itself knows when someone needs a place to rest and quietly constructs one. Well, we aren't looking. These shelters speak to the energy of the Four of Swords: recovery, retreat, and the quiet rebuilding of strength. They remind us that stillness is essential for restoration. The raven on this card sits beside one of these driftwood havens as the tide rests in a calm lull. The world hushed enough to hear your own inner voice again. The tide brings pause, a gentle command. Wow, you get a lot. The tide brings pause, a gentle command to rest your mind and settle into stillness. Where other cards push for momentum or clarity through action, the Four of Swords asks that you stop, take a moment to breathe, and step back. Let the nervous system reset. In this moment, healing happens quietly, where scattered thoughts settle like silt in the calm water, and where insights returns not through effort, but through rest. Downtime here is intentional, not avoidance, but strategy. When the tide moves out, it drags with it the frantic need to keep moving, proving, and pushing. Burnout loosens. Overthinking dissolves like footprints in the wet sand. What else pulls away is escapism diagnosed as productivity, the compulsion to keep going even when your spirit is exhausted. The Four of Swords teaches us that slowing down is not failure. Stillness isn't quitting. It's the refusal to break yourself for the sake of momentum. Well, based on what I talked about in this video, this deck maybe called me out a little bit, but that's okay. I have to say, you know, this art is beautiful, and that guidebook entry was maybe a little bit too on the nose, but you know, that's okay. That's okay. And the guidebook entry was good. So, you know, even just pulling this card, I am liking this deck more. And, you know, I want to, you know, kind of in the spirit of this prompt, you know, I do want to keep working with this deck in 2026 because, you know, I had my first impression, but it kind of seems like there might be more to this deck than what I initially thought, which, you know, I'm excited to find out more about it. So yeah, that is the last prompt. I just wanted to thank you all for being here. You know, I would love to hear about some of your 2026 reflections in the comments. You know, what are some of your favorite decks that we're using? Especially what is some of your favorite pairs of 2026? I always love hearing what pairs people really like to use. So I would love to hear that in the comments. I would also appreciate it if you could hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, are not yet subscribed to my channel, but you would like to be notified when a new video comes out. You might want to think about hitting the subscribe button as well. Happy New Year's, everyone. I will see you all in 2026.